I also learned that in the class sizes are super small. It allowed me to connect with my professors, same with the instructors. And the fact that I was able to fly as a freshman was a big thing compared to any other flight school.
The students have a lot of opportunity to work one-on-one with their professors. They also have a lot of opportunities to work one-on-one with their flight instructor. So obviously in the airplane, they're doing one-on-one things, but the instructors are often available to help with things outside of the airplane as well, tutoring them in their other aviation courses. My favorite things about the AVA program have to be like the family connection that I have here with just like the instructors and other students in the program, and the opportunities with being able to pick up extra flight blocks and being a part of the flight team here.
Two of my favorite things, definitely, I really like the campus. I like how small it is. I'm able to walk to all my classes. If my car breaks down, there's a transportation system to come out to the airport. And then my second favorite thing, it has to be the planes. I love the Piper Archers.
So we have a Redbird full motion flight simulator. We have the opportunity to change out to 3 different avionics panels, so it matches all of the airplanes that we have, the avionics in all of the airplanes that we have. So the students, when they're flying in the simulator, they're actually still using the same equipment that we have in the airplanes. I definitely would say that this is a great program. I've learned so much. Instructors here really do want to give you the best opportunity, and you get to work with different instructors, get different opinions, meet different people, just so many different opportunities and experiences.
Being in the female in the program, it's definitely a different experience. There's not many of us, so it's really cool to be able to see all the females come in, or any of the previous females. We all get treated the same no matter what, which is great. But I really like that the females kind of stick together throughout the program. We all, end up meeting each other, talking to each other, and it's just it's a cool experience being one of very few.
For future students, I think the best thing I can tell you is ask a lot of questions. Aviation is a pretty demanding thing to get into. It takes a lot of work to go through an aviation program, no matter where it is you go. So if aviation is something that you're interested in, you should ask a lot of questions.
Central student, I would definitely tell them like this airport's amazing. Being able to fly your first day is like one of the coolest parts. I mean, especially it's amazing getting in pilot seat your first day of classes, and you're the one in control of the plane and all the controls. And all the CFIs here have been really like sweet, nice. They are very like helpful. You can choose what you want to do with the program, how fast you want to go, how much you want to fly, but there's really like no limit to how you want to progress through the program.
If you have any questions about the aviation program at Avery University, feel free to reach out. We look forward to welcoming you to the Averett family.
Welcome to the Averett University Workshop. The title of the program is Averett University Aviation Experience. I'm JP Novin, the CEO of Plexuss Student Network, and I'm honored and excited to serve as the moderator for today's event. This workshop is scheduled for 60 minutes. Our meeting today will be divided into 3 informative segments. To kick off things, each of our esteemed panelists will provide insights for approximately 10 to 12 minutes on essential topics related to pursuing an aviation degree and becoming a pilot. The second part of our presentations is around questions and answers. You'll notice that on your Zoom, there's a Q&A button. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask and someone will answer you during the presentation. We plan to stay on for another 10-15 minutes after presentation for any additional questions that may come up. Lastly, at the end of our session, we will highlight few questions for our panelists to answer, discuss the process of qualifying for Averett University's $1,000 and $5,000 scholarship. Finally, it is required that you stay for the full hour session in order to qualify for scholarships and also for the bonus that is going to be sent to you. The survey is only 1 minute that will occur at the end of the presentation. You will need to complete the survey. As a participant in this workshop, you will enjoy exclusive access to Averett's Airport and Aviation program. This means all attendees will have a chance to experience the flight simulator, and 10 fortunate individuals will even have the opportunity to take off in an actual plane with an instructor pilot on January 26th. So we'll talk more about that towards the end. Now, we couldn't ask for a better panel. And I must admit that this is the first workshop that we've done on any major or career that has 100% job placement. So it is very exciting. With us today, we have Travis Williams, the Chief Flight Instructor at Averett. We also have 3 distinct representatives from Republic Airways, Simone Williams, Victoria West, and Devin Ragberg. We also have with us Jacob Santangelo, who is a pilot and a graduate of Averett University. And if you're interested to actually attend Averett University and apply to aviation or any other programs at Averett, Mr. Matthew Mann, the Director of Admission, will be talking as our last panelist. It is my honor now to introduce Travis Williams, who is the Chief Flight Instructor at Averett. Mr. Williams has served as a Chief Flight Instructor of his alma mater since 2005. He has accumulated more than 8,000 hours of dual instruction during his tenure. He is an FAA DPE designated pilot examiner. Mr. Williams?
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about the program. And as Dr. Norman said, I'm now serving in my 19th year as the Chief Flight Instructor here. It's been a joy and a privilege to serve in the organization of my alma mater. We currently have 110 enrolled students in the program, and about 17% of those are females. We have 18 instructors on staff. And as he also mentioned, I'm an in-house designated pilot examiner, which is pretty unique to collegiate aviation. And so what that's going to provide our students is the opportunity to, once they get through their training, not have to be delayed on getting their check ride. So that's going to allow them to advance through their ratings much faster than at a lot of places. I've heard in some parts of the country, students are waiting 3 and 4 months to get a check ride scheduled. So here, our students can get through the course and be on a check ride within a week. We currently have 12 aircraft, all Piper products, and 3 more on order. So about 3 years ago, we put in a 5-year plan to be able to accommodate 200 students. And we set that plan in motion. And so eventually we'll be at 16 aircraft, which will give us a student to airplane ratio of about 12-to-1, which is probably the best in the country when it comes to collegiate aviation. We also have one full motion simulator that's unique in the fact that we can train in that simulator with many different types of aircraft because the panels can change out. And then I think another unique part of our program is being in the Mid-Atlantic region, we get all 4 of the seasons. So, you know, people that train in Arizona and places like that where they never see weather or clouds, right? I don't think that's the best for training. We're halfway between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Atlantic Ocean, so our students get those opportunities to fly in different environments. We're also about an hour flight from Charlotte, which is American Airlines, one of their biggest hubs. So our students are able to go down there and get in the mix with some of those bigger airliners, which is pretty unique. And then I think probably the most unique thing about our program is our freshmen get to fly from day one as soon as they step on campus. And again, most collegiate programs, I think if you look at, they make them wait at least 1 year because they don't have the staff or the aircraft to accommodate the student population. So the next slide you're looking at, I think a lot of individuals that come in that if they're not familiar with aviation, but they think that it's something they want to do, they see the upfront cost. And I would agree that the cost of flight training is expensive. And this study was done a few years ago, just to show that your return on your investment of a pilot is one of the highest right now of any profession. So if you look at just a 4-year undergraduate degree, like I said, this came out a few years ago. If you just take an average, say 90 to 100,000 for a 4-year degree, you can see your specialty costs there. Another, and probably right now we're at about 60,000 to get all your certificates and ratings. And then you see a lawyer is very similar with the specialty costs, and then a doctor obviously a whole lot more. So if we would go to the next slide, please. Median annual salary, and I think our next panelist could probably touch on this, is actually probably higher than the 111,000 that they're showing on this here. And the unique thing there is after our students graduate, they usually instruct for about a year to gain their hours to get to the airline. So that's going to give them, 42 years of earning potential as a pilot, which is pretty phenomenal. So with all that being said, for every dollar invested in your aviation training, you're going to gain 33 back, which is pretty awesome. But I think the biggest thing I would say is, if you're interested in aviation, I wouldn't do it just because you think you're going to make a lot of money. It's a very unique career, and it's very rewarding. But at the same time, it can be very difficult, and our other panelists will probably touch on that. You're on the road a lot, and sometimes that looks great on TikTok and Instagram, but you're gonna miss opportunities with families. You may have to work on certain holidays. You may miss the birth of a child, things like that. So not an easy career, but I would say definitely very rewarding, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Next, we have with us 3 representatives from Republic Airways. Republic Airways has the largest Embraer 170-175 fleet with 220 plus aircraft servicing American, Delta, and United. Please join me in welcoming Simone Williams, who is the College Relation Consultant of Republic Airways. She's currently pursuing a doctoral degree at Hood College, where she's studying organizational leadership. And on April 2015, Simone began her aviation career at Republic Airways. Since then, she has been active part of the in-flight care team and diversity, equity, and inclusion business resource group. Simone?
Sorry, good evening, everyone. As
Yeah.
Dr. Novin said, I'm Simone Williams. I am from the Washington, D.C. area. I started my career at Republic Airways as a flight attendant for 6.5 years, and I transitioned over into the HR campus recruiting role. So what do? I actually oversee the Northeast region. So all the schools going from New York all the way down to Washington, D.C., all Part 61s and 141 schools. I pretty much am the consultant for that school, as well as all historically Black colleges and universities that have flight programs. I'll turn it over to my teammate, Victoria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria. I'm also a campus recruiter with Republic. Very similar to Simone. She has the Northeast region. I have the South region. So everything from Florida up to Pennsylvania, pretty much. Part 61 schools and 141 schools. I have a background and a degree from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I went to school at the Daytona Beach campus. After that, I got some experience working as a recruiter for first officers and direct entry captains at another regional carrier, and have transitioned over here in March of 2022. So almost 2 years now I've been here at Republic. And yeah, I enjoy going to schools and meeting you all, and I'm excited to tell you more about Republic.
Next, we have Captain Devon Ragbear, who is the first officer, program director of teacher development for New York City, a high school and college instructor, an aircraft maintenance technician, and a flight instructor. Captain Ragbear, what haven't you done? Tell us a little bit more, please. Then you need to unmute, please.
That works better. Hi guys. Well, it's been a journey to get to this point, but the dream has always been to be a pilot. So along the way, you take some different offshoots every once in a while. But I'm here at Republic for 2.5 years now. Been in the left seat for close to 300 hours, so about 4 months, a little over 4 months on the captain seat. And I'm happy to be here and take questions, field questions, and really maybe help someone a roadmap to get to this left seat at Republic Airways.
Simone or Victoria, could one of you touch upon some of these slides, please?
Yes.
Go ahead, Simone.
Yes. So as campus recruiters, we go to different schools and do different RJET days there. So we come in and talk about Republic and just talk about just so many things, the opportunities that we have in Republic, as well as we do interview prep, resume prep, mock trials, and all those great things to make students a better candidate to apply for the regionals, especially for Republic Airways. So with that being said, Victoria and myself and Captain Devon wanted to drop some gems for you guys to tell you guys just a little bit about the do's and the don'ts. So the first thing that we do is, go back on for professional development. I'll actually have Captain Devon, if you can go over the first,
Sure.
that first part, yeah.
Sure. So really, when I was asked to assist this project, I broke it down into like 3 different columns. If you really want to think of yourself on this, how do you build your portfolio? And for me, I started with the professional side because that kind of defines you before you walk in the room. And just some of the things that really popped out when I start an interview process or we sit with a candidate that's looking to fly for Republic. The first thing we see is your logbook. And, when you first start off, it may not seem important, but when you sit at that interview desk, it really speaks about who you are before you even start the interview process. So that means is it organized? Is it labeled? Is it penmanship? Kind of like on the level of what we expect from a professional pilot, right? It kind of speaks, or it's a precursor to what to expect. Is this person organized? So those are some of the things. So, is your logbook organized? Is it labeled? Is it, neat? Is it something you take pride in? Was one of the things that stood out. Should I keep going, Simone? Just walk through these, or yeah?
I'll go, Victoria, you can take the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to consider as well when you're selecting an airline. So one of the things that I would say is research all of the regionals if that's the way you want to go to a regional airline. Research all of the regional carriers, see where they're based out of. Where do you want to live? That's a huge number one, I would say. Go to a base where you want to live, or do you want to commute, which means you fly to wherever your base is, just start your trips while you're working. Those are two huge things I would say. Bases, do you want to commute? Some things to consider. How much vacation time is there? What aircraft are you going to be flying? Have you heard good things about this aircraft? Do you want to be flying that aircraft? How long does it take to upgrade to captain? Does this airline have a good proven safety record and a good reputation in the industry? All things that you want to think about when you're choosing an airline. So those are some of my pointers for that part.
Thank you, Victoria. So the next one I would talk about is professional networking. So what does this mean? This means that you, as students, when you do have people like myself and Victoria coming to your school, you want to make sure that you get our cards, that you are actually on LinkedIn. If anybody knows, I'm a LinkedIn queen. Also go to the conferences. So you have NGPA, you have LPA, Latino Pilot Association, you have OBAP, you have SOS, Oshkosh, all those great events, and you have tons of pilots there and tons of aviators there. You can actually network and use those people as your resources to get to where you want to be. So networking is always the key to success. And the last one, I'll take Devon.
Oh, I just muted myself. It's organizing yourself from the start. So at this point in your career, you're really building the foundational blocks. And that starts with the simple things as, making sure everything is prepared. Every day I go in for a flight, I have to check a couple things. So if you're taking check rides now, the last thing I want you to think about is looking over your shoulder and comparing yourself to another pilot. You can't be that other pilot. You are your own person. So when I say establishing patterns, I really want you to look inside of you and say, hey, am I ready for this check ride? Because if I go to the flight that day, I have to make sure that I'm ready for my flight, right? And that is not only dealing with like weather documentation, reading the release. Those are simple things, but it's that formula, right? I have a specific pattern, the way things has to be laid out. So on that professional side is really laying out your pattern, your do's and your don'ts, what has to happen today before you step into that airplane to take that check ride. You guys are super lucky to have an in-house DPE. And I'm a fan of the Piper product. So you have like a really two solid things going for you, right? The airplane and the examiner is there. So similar to Republic, the airplane I really like, and let's say my examiner in this case would be my dispatchers. Now, what am I bringing to the table? And really, am I organized? Am I doing my due diligence? Am I double checking, looking at the weather? If I'm flying a multiple leg trip, am I planning for, am I going to be flying the leg into the most difficult weather? Am I going to be managing the airplane? So it's the same thing at your level. How are you going to take that check ride determines the outcome. I would strongly suggest you go to bed that night knowing, hey, this check ride is just another flight. And if you have any apprehension, I would say maybe you think, do I really want to take this check ride? Because am I completely ready? And that has to do with building those patterns. If something doesn't feel right the day of a flight, I'm going to ask myself, I'm not really feeling 100%. Am I going to hide it and say, hey, I have a headache and I don't tell anyone? Or am I going to disclose it to my first officer and say, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling 100% today. I'm really going to need you to step up your game. And it's the same thing, when it comes to building these patterns. And I can't reiterate it enough.
Excellent. All right. So aside from the professional development, we do have personal development as well. So Victoria?
I'll take it away. So first thing in our professional development, time management, super important, obviously important in aviation when you're studying and working on your degree and working on your hours and certifications. It's also something that I have honed my skills in on here working at Republic. So a couple of pointers for time management from me. Obviously keeping a calendar or agenda of everything that you need to complete. For me, everything that I need to complete is listed on my calendar on my phone, and then it gives me satisfaction to delete them as I do them throughout the day. But you can use whatever tools that work best for you, whether it's a paper agenda or keeping it digital. digital on your phone calendar. Build a personalized schedule, set a time of the day where you need to do each thing, a certain amount of time where you need to do each thing that you need to accomplish, and stay on a schedule. That's really what keeps me organized. Also keeping notes on either a notebook or notes app on my phone. My notes app is full of so many things that I need to do and accomplish. I keep notes of everything. And then I also delete those as I go. So set reminders if you need to, and look at your notes app daily if that's a route that you want to go as well. But really what you want to do is just evaluate your priorities and schedule those first. I always like to get those done first, and then get everything off my list. Scheduling everything one thing at a time that I need to work on. So those are some of my pointers.
Awesome, Victoria. The next one I'll talk about really quickly is articulate your characteristic traits. So what does this mean? The difference between characteristic traits and skills, or skills is something that you learn. So learning how to be a pilot, you have your pilot skills. Characteristic traits are traits that make you you. So I noticed that during our RJ Cadet interviews on my end, I noticed that a lot of people struggle, have a lot of challenges with one of our questions that include describe yourself. And I always tell students this is a time to brag to myself and the pilot, let's say Captain Devon, about why we should choose you as a cadet. And a lot of them stumble over this. So what you want to do is learn yourself as well as be able to talk highly about yourself with confidence. Another thing I will also say is understand the difference between accountability and responsibility. Always know that accountability is after the fact and responsibility is before the fact. And Devon?
So this goes back to, touches a little bit on Simone's comment. When we sit for interviews, folks kind of struggle to tell us about a scenario where they navigated difficult situations. Being a pilot, yes, you go from point A to point B with kind of like type A personality, just get the job done. But there's so many soft things that happen, interacting with the gate agent, interacting with, passengers at board, your flight attendants, the people catering the airplane, the folks cleaning the airplane. And that's really the parts of being a flight leader or a captain, I would say, that is not part of your flight training, right? It has nothing to do with taking off and landing. But we see it in the interview side, and that really is the things you have to develop as a student in a flight school. Think about that interaction with the person who's fueling that Piper airplane. Like, are you greeting them? Are you thinking about how you demonstrate leadership in that specific situation? Are you making everyone is kind of on board? So tell me about a time scenario of how you led a particular situation out of something that could have led to a failure of some sort, or a mishap. Something simple really speaks volumes when you're dealing with a passenger. So those things start at your level. How did you deal with that flight instructor you didn't get along with? How did you deal with that fellow pilot that you didn't get along with? Why and why not? And building those relationships now would lead to letters of recommendation. So your DPE, that person has to have absolute confidence in you. And I'm sure if you demonstrated, during your flight program that you were an outstanding pilot, person, human being, the letter of recommendation will be so much easier for them to. And that's really what I think puts like the bow on your resume prep, if you want to say that.
Actually, this slide is actually for Captain Devon. Take it away.
All right. This one is near and dear to my heart. We all make mistakes. We all have issues. We all walk a different path in life. There's a couple of things that red flag applicants before they even walk in the door. I like to drive fast. You can't drive fast. It's just not safe for everyone else around you. So if you want to drive fast, go to a go-kart track and you'll feel it going really fast because there's no windshield, right? Even though you're only going 20 miles an hour. So some of the things that we notice when we do interviews, when you do a background check, when you run a driver's license check, when you run, any type of FAA write-ups, those are the no's. So we definitely don't want to get involved in anything that deals with drinking while driving or making lapse judgment calls, speeding ticket, anything that endangers anyone else, because you're all going to see it at some point. There is a specific question in the FAA test that says, individuals who have driving infractions are risky pilots. And the answer per the FAA is true. 100%. That's a question I've taken 100 times. So that's the no part of it. The good part of the do's is really what makes you outstanding. Anyone can fly an airplane once you're rated. What makes you different? Why would an airline really want you on their team? And this thing is an entire journey. I don't want you to think about flying 777s at some point that's great. But before you get to that 777, which is that last, step on the rung on the ladder in some folks, dream, there are different things. Are you helping others? Are you giving back to your school? Are you giving back to your community? Are you tutoring others? Are you working at a pantry? And I take great pride in working at a pantry every Wednesday. I'm off because it reminds me that, we looked at that pay scale. I'm definitely in the upper echelon of the pay scale, but there are folks who are still in need. So those are some things that are do's that I can't preach enough. This 777 will come, but before you get there, you need to build these different toolbox things to get to that point. I hope that sums it up.
That was excellent. Thank you so much, Republic team. I certainly learned a lot. It is now my pleasure to introduce one of Avert's own, Jacob Santagello, who is actually a 2016 Avert graduate pilot today. He's currently working for Piedmont Airlines based on Charlotte, North Carolina. Jacob is a line check pilot on the Embraer 145. Jacob, please tell us about your experience and your journey.
Hey, everybody. So my journey from Avert to becoming a line check pilot is, a long story, and I can go on and on about it. But I'll just hit on the main points of how my journey started at Avert. So in 2013, I achieved my private pilot's license just after I graduated high school. So I went to Avert already having my private pilot's license. And so I started kind of ahead of the game. And the reason kind of why I chose Avert was because, first of all, they allowed me to come into the program with a private pilot's license. They gave me credit for it. And it was also closer to home and just a smaller school compared to most. And I could see it was more of a family atmosphere. So started off with the instrument rating training. So I started studying up for the written and, of course, completing that whole program within the first year that I was there. Commercial is a little bit longer of a curriculum, and I finished that the second year, my sophomore year, I think just the summer after that, because it requires so many hours of flying. But the amount of hours of flying is, I think, if I remember correctly, 120 plus hours. So to achieve that level, your commercial pilot's certificate within 2 years is a pretty good achievement. And everybody in my class was on the same level. And that was the good thing about Avert, is that because you have that interaction of a family atmosphere, we all study together. We all give each other pointers and just have really good interactions with each other that pushes everybody to achieve that goal. And that's really what I want to harp on, because by the time I graduated in 2016, I was able to graduate with actually a double major of aerospace management flight operations with another major in criminal justice. I graduated a semester early, and I received my certified flight instructor certificate about 2 or 3 months after I graduated. So I started working at Avert pretty much 2 or 3 months right after I graduated. So it was very quick. And also I did my flight instructor training in-house, which was an amazing experience. I think it made me into the best pilot I could be. You know, and I really want to harp on the fact that the one-on-one training that we get at Averett, it really makes your career accelerate and just kind of blossom. And from there, I achieved my double I, so instrument rating on my certified flight instructor certificate, and also my multi-engine instructor certificate as well. So by the time, you know, about it would say 4.5 years down the road from when I started at Averett, I pretty much had every rating that you could get besides an airline transport pilot license. So it happened very fast, and I was able to achieve all those goals, which was great. And another advantage that Averett had at the time that I was going there was the cadet program for Piedmont and PSA Airlines. That is just kind of how the industry was going at the time. Those two airlines were recruiting a lot at our school, and Piedmont made the most sense for me because I was looking at the reserve time there, and not only that, but the schedules and the bases. And they happened to have a base close by when I started there, which was Roanoke, Virginia, and then it actually changed to Charlotte. So that was the reason why I picked that airline. So through their cadet program, I could start in their program as a CFI at 400 hours. And, you know, after I got all of those ratings, and progressed from there, interact with their recruiters, and then start my training at the airlines once I reached 1,000 hours. And I was able to do that within 9 to 10 months of starting as a CFI, which is also very quick. I was able to get a lot of students, which is key to being a flight instructor and trying to gain those hours to get to the airline level. So that part of the program was great as well. I think at one time I had somewhere around 10 students. But you know, it may seem like a lot, which it's great for the hours, but it was also just enough to where I could give them all the individual training that they needed. So that was a great part of the program as well. And then just, you know, the airline initial training, that section of it, I think Averett really prepares you well for this, because when you have those interactions with your instructors and your fellow students, about how to study for the written exams, about how to prepare yourself as a pilot for check rides, how to carry yourself as a pilot, I think that really prepared myself for the initial training that I had at Piedmont. And in 2018, I started at Piedmont. And from I think I started in February of 2018, and I finished my training by October of 2018. And I was a first officer for about 3 years, partly because of COVID. I was supposed to upgrade to captain in March of 2020, and obviously we know that's when everything started. The whole world started to stop at that time. So I was literally in upgrade class when they canceled that because of COVID. So I was a first officer for another year and a half after COVID. Whenever the airline started hiring again, they started upgrading everybody again, and I became a captain. And once I became a captain, I think as a first officer, you start to apply the things you learned in school at Averett, a lot with the jet, especially. You know, you learn a whole vast range of things when you go to Averett, and a lot of it applies to the current flying that you're doing, but a lot of it applies to the jet flying or the turboprop flying you'll be doing with your career down the line. And so as the first officer, I really started to apply those principles and learn how to fly, you know, not only just not learn, but you know, really apply those principles to be not just a certified airline transport pilot, but to be a better one, to be one that, you know, has nice, safe approaches, softer landings, things like that. Just applying all the principles that I learned at Averett. And then, you know, so once I upgraded, I was a captain for 2 years. Still am a captain, but I joined the training department to become a line check pilot. And so I can give what are called line checks to line pilots. So I sit in the jump seat and I observe them and make sure they're staying up to our standards or our standard operating procedures. And also I train, not really train, once a student or once a new hire or an upgrade candidate passes their check ride, they fly with me in a jet with passengers. And I'm basically certified to fly the aircraft by myself if I need to. So flying with a new hire, if they freeze up, if they have an adverse reaction, I can take over and I can still operate the aircraft safely and we have no issue and we can adjust, address it. But so that's kind of my role now in the airline. Piedmont is a wholly owned carrier of American Airlines. So so they have a flow through program. So once I interviewed at Piedmont, I was basically hired at American. And I've been I've been at Piedmont for almost 6 years now. And in May, I should be flowing to American Airlines and flying, 737s and A320s and that level of flying. So it's been a long road. I've gained a lot of experience. And the base of that experience started with Averett, and it laid a great foundation to achieve those goals. So to just touch on patience and the safety aspect of it, on this page here, really with check rides and interviews and airlines and it just really starting at the base level of check rides when you're starting out at Averett, you have to have patience. You have to be able to really just address yourself and say, hey, like I want to achieve this goal, but I can't skip steps in the process to get there. And I think that I learned that lesson several times and it was really humbling. But just a part of the aviation world, the process and how it goes. And it makes you a safer pilot, a better pilot. And that's really what I would suggest to everybody starting out is to just have patience and always persevere your goals. Don't give up. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has mistakes that they make, and you just have to keep persevering your goal. You can't give up because of one thing or another. And that's really a main thing that I've seen throughout the years is just keep persevering. Safety is a huge aspect at Averett. I think, I don't know the record, but I would say throughout my years at Averett, I don't think we ever really had any kind of safety issue. I think Averett takes very good care of their aircraft. I think Averett has a lot more barriers in their program than maybe most flight schools that really makes them above the rest safety wise. And not just the aircraft themselves, not the program, but just you as a pilot. They, keep thinking of a word for it. They basically, really keep an eye on, on the students, keep an eye on the program, and just keep those barriers in place. There's a lot of checks and balances with the program, and it's really a great safety wise program. And really with this last section, I want to touch on like some things that I learned at Averett that really apply to the real world. The basics of a simple landing. People really don't think about it much. Like, oh, you just get down to the runway, you flare, you touch down, that's it, right? No, that's not exactly what happens. And as a pilot, you gain so much experience, and pilots, you can get very complacent as a pilot throughout the years. And what I want to touch on is the things that you learn on at Averett. You really have to keep in the back of your mind every time you land the aircraft, every time you take off the aircraft. Travis is big on trimming the aircraft from what I remember in my time at Averett. And our jet, the 145, is big on trim. As soon as we take off, we're trimming nose down on the aircraft. As soon as we're coming in to land, I'm trimming nose up. If we have a crosswind, I'm still applying the same procedures that I did at Averett flying a Piper on the 145. And I see a lot of guys who have a ton of experience coming to Piedmont Airlines or any airline, and they don't do those basic things of like a crosswind landing, landing with the upwind side, the landing gear down on the upwind side, and just adding rudder to be on center line and things like that. It's very little details to make a good landing, but I see guys getting complacent, and Avert, I think, really harps on, the instructors do, really harps on those basic necessities that you carry into your airline life, and just really creating that mentality that you're going to do that every single time, and not just kind of be relaxed especially when you have passengers on the aircraft. And then on the slide I put questions, but I think the Q&A is going to be after. But I think that's pretty much all I've got.
Thank you so much, Jacob. That was very thorough and just a wonderful explanation of all the processes. Thank you. Our last speaker is Mr. Matthew Mann. Matthew is also an Avert graduate. He received his degree in 2008 in global marketing management, and he loved Avert so much that he's now the director of admissions at Avert University. Without further ado, Mr. Mann, take it away, please.
Thank you, Dr. Novin, and it is my pleasure to serve my alma mater as the Director of Admissions. You guys have learned a lot of technical information tonight, a lot of details, and I often tell families when we meet with them that aviation is a technical career. It is a lifestyle choice for most of our families, but as Travis mentioned, it's very rewarding. When we meet families, most of them have the story as to why they're interested in aviation, and I've met so many interesting families, from private pilots to NASA engineers, and so it's one of those careers that we get really excited to talk about. And so, as you can probably tell tonight, we had a lot of information to share. So I want to go through a couple of just quick things with you all about college admissions. Obviously, I'm going to gear some of it towards Avert, but just kind of want to give you guys some clear ideas when it comes to the admissions processes at colleges. As you can see, the very first slide, the very first topic is about visiting a campus. Now, we would love for you guys to visit our Avert experience. I'm going to share more about that with our aviation day. But that seeing a college campus is super important. I'm going to share some reasons why in a second. Then we're going to talk about applying for admissions. I know you can apply to lots of schools. Lots of schools have free applications, but should you apply to those schools? We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll get into some financial aid details. And then from there, you guys are ready to start flying. So I'm going to hop right into the next slide and talk a little bit about the visits. So from this chart real quick, this is one of our partners on Cora that does a lot of the ACT data. As you can see here, students are still saying that the most important part of an on-campus experience is their visit. The reason why we joke every single day that you would not buy a car without test driving it, your parents would not buy a home without walking through it. You should not pick a college without seeing it with your eyes. If you like that college that much, you should do what you can to try to see it. Virtual visits are great. Like I said, getting on campus, getting an idea of what culture is like, meeting people, talking to people, and understand if it's a good fit for you. I'll give you my quick story. My dad I grew up to the son of a Division I athlete, and so we spent a lot of times at a very big college campus going to football games, and I always knew that's exactly where I wanted to go to school. My dad took me for an official college visit, and within 5 minutes, I knew I did not want to go to school there. I lived my whole life thinking that's where I wanted to go, but that college visit was that important because I was able to get an idea really quickly. That's not a culture that I wanted to, that I saw myself fitting in. So again, that visit is super important. Now, schools are going to give you lots of different options of a visit. Now, you're going to have options of things like a open house, aviation events, of aviation open houses. All those types of things are great to get your information. I know we at Avert, we offer experience days. We actually have the ability to come and do something. Lots of students can go and get a visit and just get a lot of information, but we're here to actually have you do something while you're on campus. Have fun while you're here. Also, schools like Avert, we're going to offer daily visits every day. So if this is those things that you have an idea of what you want to see when you come to campus, you have a specific list, schedule a private visit. We're happy to show you around on the entire campus. Scholarship events. I know lots of schools will offer those specifically to departments or for entering classes. I know we offer scholarship days where we have faculty interviews and stuff like that. So it's another great way of seeing campus, meeting other people coming with you, and things along those lines. And then lastly, again, there are some recruiting days, like I mentioned, for either aviation or sports or whatever it is. So there's a plethora of different days that give you options of visiting campus. But just again, wanted to really stress as to why it's important. So like I said, those small schools where you might quickly visit online don't always tell the story. Like for instance, with Averett, with aviation, great example would be something like our flight blocks. By visiting campus, you learn something that our flight blocks are during normal day hours. They're not 2 a.m. in the morning. They are during normal hours when you would want to fly and you'd want to go to school. And so things like that are important that you find out during visits. So again, just super important after that. And then after the visit, this is when we're going to start narrowing down those applications. And so narrow down the schools that we want to go to. So we'll pop the next slide real quick. And so when we talk about paying for college, as Travis mentioned earlier, aviation can scare people off when they see that upfront cost. But I talk to students every single day of the week that aviation is a career choice that I have zero qualms talking about as a counselor when it comes to that investment that you make. As Travis mentioned, the data supports your earning power as a pilot. So I always support whatever means necessary that students are having to get here. But again, this is a family decision, and we completely understand that. So when it comes to types of aid, though, schools are going to offer all types of things. So I can speak on behalf of Averett that we offer a merit scholarship to every single student who's offered admissions to the college. You've been told your whole life the hard work pays off. Averett, we put a value to that. So for instance, say you come in with a 4.0, you're looking at a scholarship of $20,000 from day one. No financial aid given. Literally, congratulations on your hard work. So lots of schools will offer awards like that. Again, we offer different awards tied to events. So as we mentioned, we have an aviation event coming up that just by coming and attending, if it's your first visit, you earn $1,000 a year just for coming to the day. So there's some benefits and things like that that come with it. Other institutional money. So I talk to families every single day of the week that say, I'm not going to apply for aid. We're not going to get anything from the government. So why am I going to waste my time applying for aid? Private schools are going to use some of that information to make decisions to help you out in addition to what you might be expecting. I know it's a vague answer, but I say that, but what I mean by that is if you do a FAFSA, there's a good chance you might receive additional funding. So I can speak on behalf of us here at Averett. We actually help out a lot of our aviation students with those aviation costs. And so just by doing a FAFSA, you're going to find additional money is available to you there. Now, since I mentioned the FAFSA, again, it stands for the free application for federal student aid. This is how you're going to qualify for federal money like Pell Grants or student loans or things along those lines. It's been a hot topic in the last month or so, so you may have heard that term before. But again, if you have questions with your FAFSA, I can only speak on behalf of us. Give us a call. We're happy to do it with you over the phone. It's a free application for a reason. Don't pay anybody to do your FAFSA for you. But that's going to how you're going to find out any kind of federal monies and things like that. And then lastly is going to be those outside scholarships. We joke all the time that we know guidance offices are not created equal, but every single kind of scholarship agency, when they have a scholarship in mind, they're going to take it to their guidance counselors at the local high school. So go there to start that scholarship search. I know we here at Averett, we help state families every single day when it comes to those kind of things. So anyways, you've broken all it down, you've got your visit, you're ready, you have means to, you have your plans for payment and those sorts of things ready to go. So you're ready to start applying. The big things I want to tell you all is a couple things. One, when it comes to references, go ahead and have those locked up. Do not start checking your references the day you're trying to apply. Go ahead and sort those out beforehand and have those ready. We joke that you're never going to ask someone who doesn't like you to write your letter of recommendation, but pick those people carefully, those people that represent, that know you well, not just, hey, this person likes me, but someone who can really speak on your character in your behalf. So choose those references wisely. Also, when it comes to essays, a lot of schools are opting out of essays, but some still require it. Go ahead and have a few of those pre-written so you can just tailor those to the application you're doing. I know that's nothing new, but trust me, it's going to save you a lot of time when it comes to those college applications. You're going to hear the term test optional a lot. And what I really want you to understand about test optional, it truly is test optional. And what that means is if you submit a standardized test like an SAT or an ACT, schools will read it. It can help you with your decision, but it is not required. It is not something that hurts your chances for admissions. It's not something that is counted against you. And so if you've taken those, we encourage you to send those. But again, they're not something you have to track down if that's not who you are. I mean, not something you want to do, because we kind of believe in the mindset that the SAT is not necessarily the indicator of who you are as a student. It's the Saturday you sat down for a test. And so we really do look at applications holistically. Last thing I will say about applications is just check those deadlines. Schools are going to offer all different types of language. You're going to see early decision. Make sure those are binding or non-binding, depending on your preference. Lots of schools will offer you admissions in the fall, and that's a binding decision. Early action is exactly what it sounds. If you want to find out early, some schools are going to offer that. Most schools are going to all offer a regular decision kind of timeline, which means sometime around February, March is when students start finding out. And then behalf on schools like Averett, we're almost called rolling admissions. So it means we read applications every single day. So we work on your timeline. As you're ready to submit those things to us, we're going to read your application. That said, there is benefits in doing it early. Things like financial aid, scholarships, dorms, all those types of things, residence halls, all those types of things are first come, first serve for a lot of schools. So those rolling admissions, there's a benefit in doing things early. Now, the last thing I want to mention just about our event, as a lot of people have alluded to, we do have an event on January 26th. That is our Aviation Experience Day. This is something that just by attending, like I said, you can earn some scholarship money for, but we really want you guys to take away the experience of what Averett Aviation is. This is not a day you're going to come and get preached to, but with a bunch of information. You're going to have a chance, as Travis mentioned earlier, to get some time in the simulators. Pending weather, we're going to be happy to take people up in aircraft and get you guys up for some check rides and things along those lines. Some discovery flights. And so we really want you guys to experience the day, come experience Averett's aviation program, and then have some benefit of earning some extra scholarship money just for coming. But we really think it's going to be an exciting day for a lot of people. So again, we look forward to meeting those who decide to visit. If you have questions about college admissions, feel free to take my information. It does not have to be Averett specific. Granted, I'd love to talk to you about Averett, but we're here as just a resource when we know not all resources are created equal. So anyways, that said, good luck with your college search, and we're happy to help in any way we can.
Well, thank you, Matthew, and thank you all the excellent speakers. There's been over 60 questions asked and over 120 future pilots on this session. I think we've garnered a lot of good information. So we're going to spend a few minutes going over a few things. One is for January 26th, you will receive an email. And just to make sure we cover food and transportation, you'll receive a $50 bonus campus tour gift card for that. At this point, you're going to see a survey question on the screen that is also going to qualify you for attending this workshop as well. So we're going to launch the survey, and please everyone go ahead and answer this question. This is a mandatory part of the process. And then what I want to do is actually go back and review. We have some questions for our esteemed panelists as you're filling out the qualification poll. The first question is for Travis. Travis, how many flight simulators hours can count towards total flight hours? And two-part question: is this part? Is this a part of 141 school where you can get a restricted ATP?
So yes, we're a 141 flight school that has the 1,000-hour reduced ATP. And as far as flight sim time, our sim is certified for 50 hours towards your ATP certificate. Under the 141 for your instrument training, 40% of your instrument training can be done in the simulator. So that's going to do a couple things. It's going to get you quicker through that rating and save a whole lot of cost over the airplane. So that's probably a bonus, but 50 hours total towards the ATP.
Simone, perhaps you could answer this question, which is, in your experience having worked with Averett aviation graduates, what are some of the soft skills and qualification Averett prepares you compared to perhaps some other schools who do a lesser job?
That's actually a really good question. A couple times that I visit Avery University, I've noticed that the students there speak with confidence. Confidence is one of the best accessories. So I noticed that they're confident with their skills, their ability to speak about their profession, their future profession, and what they're doing right now, as well as where they want to go, and also about themselves. So I'm really big on hire for attitude, train to skill. So with that being said, hire for attitude, they're at Avery, and then train to skill, they're at Avery. Hire for attitude is where they actually go into the real world and apply for positions. Like I said, I've noticed the confidence, professional and personally, that sets Avery apart from all the other schools.
Thank you. This next question is for Jacob. Jacob, when did you know you want to be a pilot? And tell us about how you felt the first time you had to actually fly an airplane. How scary was it?
Yeah, so that was a good question. So I grew up in Western Massachusetts, and I grew up next to an Air National Guard base that actually had the airplane that's in the background, and loved watching airplanes. Just absolutely fell in love with it when I was about 5, 6 years old. So when I was about 9, 10 years old, well, actually really 11 years old, I joined a program called Civil Air Patrol. And so that was kind of like a military Boy Scout type program that was involved in aviation. And so I really developed my love for aviation through that. And first flew in aircraft with them. Geez, I was probably back in 2011, 2012. No, sorry, thinking even before that. But anyways, flew an aircraft like on a discovery flight. It was a lot different from what I expected, but I loved it. And the first time I actually flew it myself and did all like takeoff and landing and everything, it's just one of those experiences like it's like going to like a Red Sox game at Fenway or a Cubs game at Wrigley. It's like you can just feel your heart beating out of your chest. It's just an amazing feeling. Yeah, it's just one of those moments that you kind of remember for the rest of your life. And it's very, very cool.
Thank you so much. This is for Devon. Devon, could you tell me about what is the difference between being a pilot in a regional airline versus a commercial like Delta or United, like working for these different employers? How is it different from pilot to pilot and company to company?
Sure. So in the United States, there's kind of like a hierarchy of experience leading to what's called a legacy airline. So the legacy airlines are Delta, United, American. Some people throw Southwest in the mix, but not really. The main carriers are those top three that's been around for ages. The regional pilot is the step up after one step up, I should say. There are a couple of different directions you can go after CFI World, let's say. So after CFI World, you could probably go Part 135, flying corporate or some surveying, some of those other things. But really, the regional pilot is kind of like the next step where you build your footing in terms of flying a jet. And the legacy airline is the rung up after that. There's low cost in between. So let's say after flight instruction, you can go to a regional carrier, which would be the Piedmonts, the Republics, the Envoys, the Endeavors, SkyWest, Air Wisconsin, there are quite a few of them. Then at that point, you can either go to low cost carriers, which are JetBlue, Spirit. I think that's kind of it. And the legacy airlines, which are, again, Delta, United, American, Southwest in the mix. And really, it's just career progression goals. The Republic Airways is kind of like in a fine niche where we are subcontractors for all three legacy airlines. So the airplane I'm flying tomorrow is painted American Airlines, but I'm a Republic Airways crew. And as you build your experience, you apply for the majors is or the legacy airlines, but you're not really doing a different job. Essentially, your responsibility is just as much. If I'm flying, 80 people on an airplane, their families love them just as much as if you're on a 777 with 250 folks on the airplane. So there's no major skill difference. It's just the hierarchy system that's established here due to safety and other things. It's just the way it works, I would say.
And
Okay.
a follow-up to that, how long did it take you to become a pilot? Sorry, to become a captain,
That's a great question. And you really have to do your homework, your due diligence. The number one thing I would say when selecting a place to go, all the air regionals have their pros and cons. They all want safety to be their paramount issue. So you're not flying anyone who is less safe than the other. But at Republic, it took me pretty much just over 1 year to build the hours needed. So I came into Republic with, let's say, 2,300 hours, I believe it is, because I was an instructor during COVID. The airlines weren't hiring, so I just went into the airlines with a lot more hours than a normal person. And it took me just over a year to build 1,000 hours, which is needed in the type rating to apply for the captain position. So you have to really do your research and see which regional is allowing their pilots to fly. Some regionals kind of meter, you'll hear that word, where they really don't want you to get to the legacy as quickly as possible. Now, that's just my opinion. It's not written anywhere. That kind of slows down your process, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much. There's so many questions. I'm just going to ask 2 more, but there's so many great questions here, which we'll get those answered for you on Q&A and on a follow-up email. But there's one for Victoria. Victoria, how many resumes do you receive on an annual basis? And how many people actually get a job? I mean, how competitive it is to actually land a job?
So I can only speak on behalf of our cadet program. We receive hundreds of applications and resumes for our cadet program. We do 2 days of interviews every day, usually about 6 to 8 interviews. So I would say, I mean, there's no specific statistic. This is just based on my experience and my opinion. Usually, let's say I have 6, usually 4 or 5 of them pass that interview.
Okay, that's not bad. All right. Matthew, last question for you. If someone gets into, when do you decide how do you get into the aviation major in AVRA? Do you get directly in, or do you have to take some preliminary classes to actually become a pilot or enter the aviation program?
Sure, another great question. So we at AVRIT, we don't require secondary application into the aviation program. So once you're admitted to the college, the aviation program is opened up to you. Now, granted, they have their own requirements for flight training, medical requirements, things along those lines. But when it comes to the actual program, there's not a separate application. So it's as easy as getting accepted to AVRIT and deeming yourself an aviation student. At that point, you don't have to have any flight training. We'll start you from day one.
Thank you so much. Again, we are here for another 10-15 minutes. If you want to ask question on the Q&A, I do want to emphasize again, Friday, January 26, 2024, look for your email. You definitely don't want to miss this experience, both the simulation and also 10 of you will be chosen to actually, I believe it's a raffle of some sort, to actually go on the airplane with a flight instructor. You get to meet Travis and crew when you get there. But I want to thank our esteemed panelists, AVRIT University, Plexuss, Republic Airways for being part of this excellent panel. And what a wonderful kickoff to 2024. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.